All right, good morning, Chair Postman, members, Garrett Bolidroff, staff and guests. The lobbies are open and the recording has begun.
Thank you, Dustin. Good morning, everybody. We will call to order the LCB board meeting for January 4th, 2023, the first of what I'm sure will be a great productive year. Couple of just housekeeping things. As Dustin mentioned, we record the meeting. For those that are in the room, just a reminder that the microphones in here are super sensitive and they'll pick up your side conversations or rustling papers. So if you need to do anything other than what's in the meeting, step outside in the lobby, that'd be great. Okay, first up, we're going to get an update on our Cannabis Central Reporting System, known as CCRS, from George Williams, our Chief Information Officer and the LCB's executive sponsor on this. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Postman, Board Member Bolidroff, Board Member Garrett. Thank you for allowing me to say a few things. This will be a quick update. I just want to say to everybody that CCRS is still currently on track for the January 9th go live date. There were some concerns expressed by the integrator community as well as some of the licensing community about the timing of all this, but we did carefully plan this out so we would avoid the holidays as much as possible and any undue work by anybody that needed to be active in that. I also wanted to thank the integrator community as well as the team for diligently working on finding bugs that are going on, to include even this morning. We are finding things that we can fix and address to make sure that they get corrected before the go live date. So everything's currently on track and we are excited about the next step at CCRS. Any of your questions?
Great. So at this point, I mean, we want people to come and try to find the mistake, right? Because this is our window to fix, right?
Yeah, that's exactly.
So we want to encourage people to get on there and try it and push it.
So absolutely. To date, we've had 7 integrators and 5 licensees interact with the system, and we invite anybody and everybody to interact with it to help us find these potential problems so we can solve them before.
Can you just give me a sense, like the one you mentioned there, one that was discovered just today, how long does it take you guys to then fix that?
It's already been discovered.
Oh, great.
What is, it turns out that it was a user error.
Oh,
but the fact that it wasn't generating an error message is something that we're going to address. So that's a minor change that we're going to make sure that when that error is made, that the user does in fact get a message that says, hey, you made a mistake.
but just for the layman here, like, does that take you guys a day to come up with that? A week? How big of a?
It took about an hour.
Oh, so that's already, so now that one has been closed.
It's not closed yet because we're going to fix the actual problem.
That's what I mean.
So we want that probably a day.
Okay,
to fix that.
Okay, yeah. So again, we want to invite people to get on there and try it and do it. Okay. Other questions for George on CCRS on the board?
I have no questions, but thanks, George, to you and your team for all your work. And I had to smile when you said it's a user problem. I hear that all the time. So
yeah.
Thank you.
What's the next sort of milestone here that we should be looking for? Is it the January 9th?
January 9th,
okay.
Milestone, and then we'll be stabilizing the system for about a week or 2 after that. And then we'll start looking at making minor enhancements as we go along.
Okay, great. And if there's any blip between now and the 9th, you'll let us know and let the community out there know. Okay, great. Thanks, George. Appreciate it. Okay, we will move on to rulemaking timelines, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Hoffman. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Postman, board members Garrett and Bolidroff. Gave a pretty comprehensive overview of rulemaking timelines. So I'll just give a very brief nutshell version this morning. That is, on the alcohol side, we will see the rule petition concerning private club memberships moving forward in February. We're also moving forward with the cloud storage project that has implications for the alcohol side of the house, but primarily on the cannabis side of the house. We'll start that rulemaking on January 18th. And then moving on to the cannabis side of the house, we're making progress on curating the World Cafe discussions, and Jeff will bring something to you on, I think we said yesterday, February 1st, but really it's going to be at caucus on January 31st. So he'll have that material put together for you and make alignment between what we heard in the World Cafe and how that might impact our existing rules at this point. Cassidy will be moving the cannabis advertising project forward here in the coming weeks. She's also going to bring 001 for you concerning the minors on premises. So that was minors on licensed premises, and also minors working with contractors that might enter licensed premises. So that's moving forward as well. And then Jeff will bring the cannabis sampling, and that is another rule petition that you accepted last year. Bring that to the board on February 1st. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up that I didn't mention yesterday is that Cassidy will be bringing a rule petition recommendation to you on January 18th. And that's a petition we received last year, late last year, that has to do with allowing additional processor licenses to be issued. So more on that to come in the coming weeks. So I'll stop there. Any questions on that before we move on?
No, I don't see any.
Okay, great. If I may, I'll go on to the rule petition.
Please. Yeah.
Okay. So this morning I'm bringing a rule petition for your consideration that was submitted on November 9th by Josh McDonald of the Washington Wine Institute. Mr. McDonald requests that the agency consider amending WAC 314-17015 to allow Class 13 permit holders, so these are alcohol server permits, to open bottles and pour alcohol for customers away from a customer's table in the same way that they can perform these duties at a customer's table. This activity was offered as a temporary allowance during the pandemic, and that allowance expired in September of last year. And Mr. McDonald asserts that this allowance was, quote, extremely helpful to those licensees utilizing 18 to 20-year-old employees in new ways to support their industry, end quote. And he also asserts that the rule change would have minimal effect. So looking at whether this request is statutorily authorized, current law describes two types of alcohol server permits, and those are the class 12 and 13. And these are distinguished by the types of activities that each can perform. So put simply, a class 12 can sell or mix alcohol or spirits, and a class 13 can only serve alcohol, spirits, wines, or beer for consumption at an on-premise licensed facility. RCW 662310, so that's the pertinent statute here, does not specify or limit where service can take place or even expressly authorize a class 13 permit holder to open as opposed to serve beer or wine. And so it's fair to say that the legislature was very clear about their intentions for these permits, and we further clarified the role and allowable service privileges of the Mass 13 permit and rule. And we've done that in two sections of rule, actually. And these are the rule that Mr. McDonald cites, and also WAC 314-11-040, pertaining to duties that people under 21 can perform on a licensed premise. So the limited scope of this request does not exceed our statutory authority. So there's that part of the analysis. But to complete our analysis, we turn to our divisions, and each of their perspectives are presented in the document that I shared with you. And I want to draw your attention to feedback offered specifically by our licensing division, by our public health and prevention liaison, and then turn to our social equity and DEIB analysis, because these are sort of new features of our rule petition responses. So licensing expressed four major concerns, and the first has to do with how closely the proposed expansion may come to actual bartending. The second has to do with the presence of minors in restricted areas, such as behind the bar. The third has to do with the alignment of the two rule sections rather than the single section that Mr. McDonald references. And the fourth concerns the impacts of updating mass training for our current 21 mass training providers. So that really, I know I've summarized that really briefly, but those were the high points of their licensing concerns. Our public health and prevention liaison expressed concern about increased access, expectations, and oversight when underage persons may potentially be allowed behind a bar, and whether this activity aligns with our overall purpose of public health and safety and preventing underage use. And then finally, I want to take a minute and speak to our social equity and DEIB analysis, since it is new to rule petitions, but it's a very critical lens through which we consider policy and rule. I want to emphasize that health inequities are not solely related to access to healthcare services. There are many other determinants of health and equity that are related to living and working conditions. The inequity in alcohol-related harm in the U.S. exists based on a number of factors, including economic status, education, gender, ethnicity, and place of residence. In general, certain socioeconomic groups experience higher levels of alcohol-related harms than other groups with the same level of alcohol consumption. So while this request does not necessarily appear to amplify those inequities directly, there are other factors such as working conditions and whether this allowance would result in socially equitable conditions that I began to look to as part of the analysis. And it was a very high level. We couldn't go real deep on this at this point. And as I mentioned yesterday, some literature suggests that this age group may be vulnerable to worker exploitation because they fall outside of some of the labor laws designed to protect minors under 18. But these workers are considered to be minors in the places they work. And the research on this issue is emerging, and I hope I've given you an idea of that in the follow-up that I provided you from yesterday. But I want to make sure that you're aware of these factors and information as part of your decision-making this morning. So to conclude, I want to again underscore the concern expressed by agency staff and the broader implications of this petition. But for that reason, we recommend that this petition be accepted for further exploration and discussion across the entire authorizing environment, considering all of the elements that we've offered here. This gives us an opportunity to determine whether rules are needed or if there are alternatives, approaches that we should consider. So for these reasons, I ask for your approval of this petition for rulemaking this morning. And happy to answer any questions.
Good. Questions, Director Hoffman, or comments on this from the board? Member Garrett?
Kathy, were you able to get the answer to the question I had yesterday regarding have we had, well, in doing this, were there any issues?
I did. I reached out to enforcement and the answer was no. There had been no ABNs, no enforcement action at all. And then I sent you a fairly detailed email this morning. I don't know if you've seen it yet. Okay, take a look at that. There's I walk you through kind of an analysis, a high level analysis of the social determinants of health inequities, the reports that we looked at from the European Union and the World Health Organization report that's dated 2018, but it was actually issued in 2020. And then there's some other, another really interesting piece called The Dimensions of Problem Drinking Among Youth Adult Restaurant Workers, written from a 2009 perspective. But it gives you an idea of some of the concerns related to worker safety, but also youth exposure. So it gives you both elements. Does that help? Okay,
Yeah.
I know it's a
Thank
lot,
you.
and I apologize for going into sort of Dr. Hoffman mode there.
So I just have a quick comment. My initial thought on this is I'm not excited about this request for a couple of reasons. And one is I take seriously the access to substances by young people. And although this is not about young people using, it does increase access. And so having said that, I think that the question that Member Garrett asked yesterday is really important. And thank you for following up on that. I have given that some thought since yesterday. And one thing I'm also concerned about is sometimes it's hard to tell immediate impacts versus long-term policy decisions and the impacts long-term. And so I am concerned about the long-term policy implications as well as the immediate. So something I'm definitely interested in looking at. said this yesterday, and I think it's important that when a reasonable request comes before the board and we have the statutory authority to make a decision, I think it is important that we stop and think about it and that we have some, meaningful conversation and research. So from that perspective, I support this request. So I appreciate the time and look forward to looking at this further.
And I agree. In thinking about it and knowing the aspect of why they're, as I said yesterday, asking for this and based on staffing to see rather than automatic just saying no, is there a way to get to a yes by putting certain things in process that one of the things that we've been talking about this at the LCB is instead of automatically saying no, let's look at if we could get to a yes, what that would look like. So I'm anxious to hear the conversations and the conclusions after there's some more conversations around this.
Yeah, I think that's right. And that's why I think the recommendation to accept is the right one. We need to have more of a conversation. This has already sparked some interesting conversations at our meetings and briefings, and I appreciate that. On the question of exploitation, I think we'll have time to talk about all of that as the process goes. As somebody who worked in restaurants for a long time, but my only youth job were in restaurants. I didn't find them a dangerous place. That concern was raised in one of the things you had sent Kathy, that it was, that hospitality is inherently dangerous for younger people. I don't think that wasn't the case then. There is the question of access to alcohol. I think that exists anytime you work in a restaurant where it serves alcohol and beer, but we do need to make sure we have hard lines on what can be done and should not be done. And so, Member Garrett, I think you're right. We have to look at, is there a way to do this in a safe way? The slippery slope argument, could be used against any idea at any time. And so I think we have to really bear down on that and look at what is the right thing. I don't think we should be loosening our regulations just for the reason that it's harder to hire adult workers today. That's not a good reason to reduce safety net. But that doesn't mean that that those rules today are set at the exact right place in my mind. So I look forward to that conversation. Where do we set that bar and how do we do it? And it is important to look at this in that broad way. And so I appreciate Dr. Hoffman, you and the staff throughout the agency looking at this from all the different aspects. And but it's been said, if we have the authority to do this and it's a reasonable request, we should have that conversation with other people, not just ourselves. And so this allows us to open it up to the industry and others to hear from. And I'll be interested to hear what we hear. I'm not sure what it'll be. So with that, if there's no other questions or comments, I'll call for a motion to approve the rules petition that amends WAC 314-17015 to expand Mass 13 permit activity. Is there a motion?
This is Ali. I move to accept the petition.
And this is Jim. I second that.
Great, then that's approved unanimously. Thank you all.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hoffman. We're to the point of the meeting of general public comment. We have people signed up both in the boardroom here as well as online. We'll begin with those that are here in person today. Quick reminder, everything's recorded. It'll be available on our website. Everybody gets 4 minutes. When you have 30 seconds left, whether you're in the room here or online, Dustin's going to just give you a very polite warning that there's 30 seconds. At the end of that, we really will ask you to stop as soon as you can at that point. For everybody else, we're just going to remind everybody that when someone's speaking, there should be no other voices, phones should be silenced, et cetera, et cetera. Let's make sure that people have the chance for their 4 minutes of comment. And so we were going to start in the room. And the first person up is Bailey Hirschberg. Bailey?
Bailey Hirschberg, Washington Normal. You wondered what 7.5 years of always getting your receipt at the retailer looks like? I just thought I'd set this over there.
Okay.
Ahead of the 2023 legislative session, you guys face the strong possibility that the agency will be asked to weigh in for or against legislation that would raise cannabis taxes. Board member Jim Bollendrop raised the issue of modifying these taxes based on cannabis concentrations in comments on December 13th. And a similar call was made in a UW-ADAI recommendation to lawmakers. I've said before that cannabis consumers are like every other American. And unfortunately for you guys, like every other American, we're not fans of higher taxation. Depending on what website you check, Washington's cost of living is in the range of 13 to 20% higher than the national. When added together, the excise and average local sales tax here in Washington on cannabis places taxation at about 46% of the product's value. And then there's the availability of unregulated cannabinoid items in both the commercial and illicit markets. Inflation in the state throughout 2022. It makes perfect sense that we'd see reports that cannabis sales have declined for the first time in 2021 or in the previous year. What makes no sense is that an agency with a value of customer focus would agree to any kind of tax increase at a time like this. Researchers have told the board directly that even with this tax rate, our cannabis remains competitively priced, and consumers are more likely to get their cannabis and therefore pay taxes into the Washington system. I know because I'm one of them. But I also have heard time and again how the tax rate and the market structure delivers competitive prices to me by putting the squeeze on the smallest producers and processors. In 2021, Washington's population was just under 20% of California's. Yet that same year, we took in 42% of the amount of tax revenue cannabis that they did. And that was according to the National Council of State Legislatures. Cannabis is sure to deliver us hundreds of millions of dollars, no matter what we do in 2023. And I understand that there are good intentions in wanting to use price to drive consumer choice. But loyal customers should be rewarded with savings, not price hikes in the name of their own health. Rather than agreeing, however reluctantly, to legislative changes raising costs of products you hope the public won't buy, why not lower excise taxes on products you want them to buy? I'm not personally convinced that this is the best approach, but a varying tax rate based on product concentration delivers consumer choice. It can drive them by lowering costs just as easy as by raising them. I asked the board, agency leaders, and specifically the new Director of Legislative Relations, Mark Webster, keep the consumer's pocketbook and health in mind during the coming legislative session and
Bailey, you have 30 seconds.
or lobby against any amend or lobby against or offer amendments to lower any tax rate that, any attempt to increase the tax rate on cannabis consumers. Thank you, guys.
Great. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Next up, Josh McDonald. Morning.
Good morning, Chair Postman, board members, Bollendroff. Thank you so much for your time today. Happy New Year. I look forward to working with you all in 2023 and in a very positive and productive and solution-oriented fashion. But first, I just want to say a quick thank you for this really thoughtful dialogue today and for your support of moving forward with the 101 from the rules petition that we put forward as the Washington wine industry and myself. So we thank you so much for that. And for when a reasonable request to come in to have this discussion, we'll appreciate your full board's and your staff's approach to that request. So thank you so much. Also, thank you, Dr. Hoffman, for her thorough review and discussion our petition and the impacts on the entire scope of our industry and our overall community. So we appreciate that. So I will keep this very brief and just say we're very excited to engage in this discussion. I look forward to bringing forward folks that will work in our industry and can talk to you about how positive this is for them. Like was discussed, this is an allowance that we utilized very effectively, and we think as the numbers show, with no violations and no challenges. It's really in a very positive way to help us in the time and way to give these folks, our employees, some more opportunities to work with it in a responsible, mature fashion, and one that's certainly going to be hopefully helpful in the long term. So with that, we know it will be. So with that, thank you so much for your time today. Happy to answer any questions. But again, I just really appreciate your support moving forward with this, and we look forward to the discussion.
Great, thank you. Is Mike Asai?
Mike Asai ran into some I-5 issues, so he's going to join us online.
Oh, okay.
He's online, so.
Oh, he is online.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike, we'll get to you when we go online. Thank you. Damien. Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is David Mims, Executive Treasurer for Black Excellence in Cannabis. I'd like to speak to you all today about the truth. The truth is Black and brown people have not had a fair and equitable opportunity in any industry in this state. That being said, I'd like to move on to discuss the solution. Sometimes we get caught up in focusing on the wrongs and not spending enough time on working on making it right. Moving in the direction of correcting problems in the past can be done much easier if you have the proper tools, which includes teamwork, leadership, hard work, and in my opinion, most importantly, faith in a higher power. Sometimes that's all we have to help us through challenging times. I see here today the members of LCB as a group sitting at the table trying to work on making it right. That hasn't always been true, but through changes in leadership and membership, I believe there's an effort to move in the right direction. I believe that to be true for folks on both sides of the table, and that those types of changes are sometimes necessary if the narrative is to be changed. There will always be opposition to change. It's only natural. What I'd like to see is for the people who are working on equity to focus on those positive voices out there. Don't ignore the past. That is very important, and it's what makes us who we are. The past is what we must learn from. For those that would like to keep tearing down Black and brown people, if you are openly and publicly speaking ill of people in support of Black and brown equity, I really hope it's not a Black or brown person doing it. It's time to break the perpetual cycle of tearing down our own kind, meaning Black and brown folks, and start to build us up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mims. Appreciate that. Peter Mann.
Well, good afternoon, Board Chairman, Postman, excuse me, Ollie Garrett for in Ballandroff. My name is Peter Manning. I'm with Black Excellence Cannabis. We are happy with LCB. We have been not so happy in the past, but we're happy with the leadership that they currently have. We're happy with the direction that LCB is going. We truly believe in Governor Inslee, the promise he made to us 2 years ago in his office when he said that he was going to bring about drastic changes to the LCB. We do want him to know that we recognize those changes and see them. We understand that not everybody can see what we see as a group. Black Excellence Cannabis has made it our mission to be solution-based, and we have changed our leadership to reflect that. We have taken on the approach never to attack a person for their personal beliefs, disbeliefs, or personal habits, or whatever that may be. We strictly go after solution-based. We go after what matters. And what matters to us now in the Black and brown community is equity. We have been closed out of a cannabis industry for the last 8 years. I have diligently worked since 2014 on bringing this to the light in Washington State. When I first embarked on this journey, I was criticized and also labeled as a nutcase, someone who was delusional. But the end result proves my point to be true because I am here before the board talking about social equity. And I'm an active member, have a group base, which is Black Excellence Cannabis, fighting for social equity. Truth to power has spoken. I believe the LCB is moving forward in the right direction. I understand that the stores for the Black and brown community, the target date is sometime early April. I'm proud to say that. I'm happy to say that. As far as the groups that are criticizing this Black movement, this is sad to see that this comes from Black people like myself. Dwayne Dunn did an interview with King 5 2.5 weeks ago. He was criticized by the same group as disinformation. And Dwayne Dunn spoke truth to power. He said that the current processors and producers that are white are flooding the market with cannabis to drive down the retail value of the stores, which is going to hurt social equity for as far as investments. That was insightful. I don't know how anyone Black could criticize that for that truth spoken by that man, that Black man that owns a retail store in Tacoma. We need to stop with the infighting and get with the program and work for all Black and brown people. This needs to stop, needs to come to an end. We need to vet the leadership that we have in those groups to see if they speak truth to power. You cannot tell me a person that has 3 locations or 3 retail stores had a problem with social equity. If any, there's a Black man that has had that opportunity to have 3 retail stores in our community, and he's the one leading the way for this nonsense. There's no equity here. He most definitely had equity, and he lost that through his own actions. And other Black people have not had the right to that equity.
Peter, 30 seconds.
We are happy here at Black Excellence Cannabis with the direction the LCB is going. You guys have done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Last person signed up in the room is Tyler Conway. Morning.
Morning. Payments, much of your time. I represent Black Excellence in Cannabis. I could sit up here and talk about the LCB in the past, but I'd like to move forward with solutions. I like to say I'm very happy with the LCB with the direction that they decided to take in trying to right a wrong that was done to the Black and brown communities. Yes, I'm happy, but at the same time, I'm realizing that we're not promised each day, and would like to see even more focus on building up our communities. Very important that we are able to create generational wealth for our children that we have been getting shut out from. Change is inevitable, so it might as well be for the better. I hope that the LCB continues with the needed work, and together I know that we can actually create a marijuana industry that is inclusive for everyone, not just for a certain sector of society. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mr. Conway. Appreciate that. Okay, we will move online. Why don't we start with Mike Sy? And for those who are online, just give us a second when I call your name, and Dustin will clear the way for you to join us.
All right, Mike, you should be ready to go.
Good morning. Are you able to hear me?
We sure are. Good morning.
Okay. Yes, good morning, board members, Postman, Garrett, and Ballandroff. My name is Mike Asai, founder of Emerald City Collective, first downtown Seattle dispensary, 2010. I am also the vice president of Black Excellence Cannabis, nonprofit organization fighting for Black and brown inclusion in the $1 billion cannabis market. I'm going to read a quote from Dr. King. This is the month that we celebrate him, but we shouldn't only just celebrate him this month. We should celebrate him all the time. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that, Dr. King. I'm running late. I'm still headed down here. With that fact, I had to do an MRI this morning, a little bit of traffic. Still dealing with the aftermath of my accident a few months back. I piggyback on what Tyler, Peter, and Damien said. Yes, I am happy in the direction that LCB is going. But I must say this. I am highly disappointed in a lot of things that have currently been going on. And one of the things is those that were there during the medical takeover, not merger, those at the LCB, there's still a lot that are still there. The board is different. There's some new employees. My belief is those that were there during the fiasco, during when black and brown were cut out, and yes, there were whites that were cut out. The fact is all the medical pioneers for the majority were cut out. To sit here for these past 2 years watching the task force, watching the delay tactics, watching everything transpire has just been disheartening. The trauma has never gone away. I walked with holes in my shoes downtown Seattle in 2010 looking for a location. Didn't have much money in my pocket, but I had a great idea. It took courage. I was empowered by Breon Corbray, the Game Collective, the first Black in Washington State, and I was empowered by a lot of others. The pioneers are the ones who built this foundation. It's the liquor cannabis board because of the pioneers who built this foundation. And I have to say, to the politicians or whoever have made the suggestions that the medical was an illicit market, is a slap in the face. We were not illicit. We were a business. We were licensed. And we paid taxes. And this is the reason why we have what we have today. It's because of the pioneers like myself, Peter Manning, Breon Corbray, Michael Perry, and many, many, many others. I want to thank Ollie Garrett. I want to thank Paula Sardinas. I want to thank Peter Manning. I want to thank Representative Pettigrew. I want to thank Senator Saldana. I want to thank Representative Deborah Intiman. I may have left some out, but I want to thank
Mike, you have 30
those.
seconds.
I want to thank them for bringing social equity to Washington. But I have to say this. My one-time visit to LCB, Beth Lehman, she treated me with disrespect. And I am really shocked and surprised that she is still working for the LCB. Thank you.
Okay, next person we have signed up is Sean Dene.
Chair Sean did register to speak online, but I don't see her with us today.
Okay, we'll check back in a little bit. Next up, David Busby.
This is Ollie. I saw Sean Dene hand raised, Dustin.
Yeah, she's no longer online. Oh, there she is.
Okay.
Oh, no,
Okay.
hold on. Okay, we're going to go with Sean Dene. Sorry, David. We'll get to you next. Okay, Sean, you should be good to go.
All right. Okay.
Oh,
Camera
morning.
and mic went live. Thank you and good morning. Happy New Year to
You
everybody.
too.
I have a couple of topics that I want to get through in the 4 minutes. So forgive me if I rush a little bit, but my name is Sean Dene Wagonseller. I'm the owner of a Tier 2 producer processor license up in North Snohomish County. I also sit on the board of the Cannabis Alliance and the Sun and Craft Growers Association. Today I speak on behalf of myself, just encompassing topics that I've been involved in conversations with other stakeholders. So We all see reports on overproduction state by state by state, and Washington is not unique to this. The supply and demand is in a vast imbalance. Reports show that the demand of the Washington consumer is pretty much maxed out. I mean, they are utilizing 502 to a great degree. So to balance the supply and demand, supply side is the only option that we have. And, you know, an LCB does seem to have the tools to address this. We see through reports that there are over 1,000 licensed producers, yet less than 600 of us are actually doing any form of business transactions. And so I wonder if the LCB is open to utilizing tools like reducing canopy limits or sunsetting dormant licenses or allowing full canopy only with proof of percentage of sales. There's ways to correct this imbalance, and I'm just hoping that the LCB Board of Directors has some sway to implement that imbalance. Tagging on to that, there's also lots of, I'd like to offer an observation on the high THC topic. Lots of discussion about that right now. And to just kind of explain in real simple terms how I believe this is happening, or why, is that green matter has a really short shelf life, while oils and concentrates have a very, very long shelf life. So a lot of the overproduction is going into concentrates to preserve those cannabinoids from the overproduction. Then that causes those oils to be dumped on the market for very, very cheap. Right now, you can go into a store and be offered 7 grams of dab oil for $70. That's $10 a gram. Now, we grow and we concentrate and we do all of that. And I'm telling you, there is no way that you can grow the plant, harvest the plant, extract the plant, gram it up into 1 gram packages with all the packaging costs, and then deliver it to a store for less than $3 a gram, which is what's happening. 70 grams of oil for $70. This exploits young people and people on limited budgets, which is what the prevention community is showing is happening. Now, we can prevent that impact by just enforcing the rule.
Sean, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, enforcing the rule that you can't sell below your costs. I don't know how LCB does that. I don't know how you figure that out, but that one thing alone would help correct the issue that we're seeing in a glut of oils that are being dumped on the market cheap and impacting the health of the community. So there are solutions, and I believe they exist in enforcement, not only in canopy, but in selling below your costs. So I hope you have the tenacity and the want to tackle that, looking at from that angle. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Sean. David Busby.
What's up? Mic check, mic check.
You're on. Hello, good morning.
Cool, thanks for having me. Happy New Year, everybody. And I'm here. You're not even going to believe this, but I want to talk about CCRS. I'm super excited that you guys have ditched that lead form and moved to the CSV upload. I'm still not really happy about moving CSV files around, but I spent a lot of time working in the banking industry and surprised the amount of data you can move with the CSV file. So cumbersome, gets the job done. So I guess, you know what they say, if it's not that great, but it works, then it's great, right? So I'm pretty happy about that. We're at about 87% success on our testing against that thing, which I think is pretty good. I would have liked to have been a little further along before the launch on the 9th. I am a little disappointed that for like the third or fourth time now, the LCB has dropped a pretty big breaking change onto the industry, and done so with a pretty short notice during the holiday season. You know, the interim thing when we lost BioTrack waiting for MJ Freeway was over the Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year holiday. The last CCRS drop happened, you know, during this holiday time. I don't know if the LCB is intentionally pushing work out to everybody else that's not them during that holiday season, but you know, maybe we could do things in like February and March and not have so much change to the industry around Croptober and then Thanksgiving and then these New Year's holidays. You know, when we get a notice from you guys, everybody's got a full schedule. Y'all got a full schedule. We got a full schedule. So if new information drops, it takes us 2 weeks to get to that information and then 2 weeks to work on the information. We've only been allocated a total of 4 weeks. So this is difficult, and not just for myself, but in communications with the other software service providers, including you know, the ones that are larger than we are. A lot of them are having the same difficulties with this file, and some haven't actually been able to get it to go quite yet at all, which is pretty concerning because we have 5 calendar days left. But otherwise, you know, this is a big deal. We operate in a whole bunch of other states, right? I'm out here in Massachusetts right now, you know, and we all use metric outside of Washington, right? And metric, you cannot do business to business transactions in your own particular piece of software, not in OpenTHC, not in a GrowFlow, not in a Cultivar, none of those. You have to leave that software and go into metric to press the final button and then move on to the step. And that's cumbersome for all of the licensees. And, you know, it's not that way in Washington. So, you know, despite all of my fist shaking and hollering, you know, this is actually pretty good. So that's where I'm at so far, you know, and shout out to your service desk who's been pretty quick with my emails and getting stuff done, answering after 5 o'clock even. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Keep poking at it. We'll get it as perfect as we can by the 9th. Next person signed up, Gregory Foster.
Good morning, folks, and likewise, Happy New Year. It's good to see you all. I am going to address CCRS today. I'm Gregory Foster with Cannabis Observer, and I'm also engaged with the Washington Cannabis Integrators Alliance, who've helped vet a lot of the remarks that I'll share here today, but I'm speaking on my own recognizance. Also wanted to extend thanks to CIO George Williams for the difficult job that he's faced with limited resources to manage the CCRS project, and for his continued willingness to engage with integrators and licensees to try to achieve the best outcomes that are possible within the constraints of the state and the system that's operating there. Really, I want to focus more on kind of what's next, and beyond the January 9th time period and CCRS 2.0. So it's my understanding that there currently are not plans for any further development of CCRS beyond the 2.0 release. And, you know, that is pretty understandable for a lot of different reasons. The CCRS system was actually intended as an interim stopgap measure just to enable us to get off of MJ Freeway, which is terrible, and everyone agrees about that. And it was adapted from that kind of interim software system that was developed during the transition to BioTrack to MJ Freeway, because, surprise, MJ Freeway didn't actually deliver on time. And so this was an adaptation of that system from multiple years ago, which was already kind of vetted, allowed on the network, and familiar to CRIT staff. Now, when we were talking during the Traceability 2.0 work group days, we talked all about how we could develop a more limited sort of reporting oriented system or go towards something like that. But, there's just not a lot of big traceability vendors out there that we haven't already been through. And so the choice was made to go ahead and step to CCRS for a time. And it was adapted and built on to improve over what was before. So with Monday's release, it's good that it's happening. I think everyone agrees that kind of normalizing things to have everything be CSV, to not require this manifest web form, is a good step. But it's still wanting, right? Like it's not an ideal system, and right now there's competing priorities for IT staff's time. The social equity program needs to be launched. The systems modernization project is, as you put it, Chair Postman, the huge battleship that is moving, that received $34 million in the governor's proposed budget for the next biennium, right? That's going to be moving along. And
30
so,
seconds.
so really my concern is, I think without prioritization of next steps, either from LCB leadership or from the legislature, dedicated budget, dedicated staff would help. And ask your IT team, they will tell you they agree that CCRS is not ideal. We could develop an API pretty simply, it's within reach, but it needs to receive that sort of imprimatur and leadership from you. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you for your comments, appreciate it. Next person we have signed up is Christopher King.
I'm unmuting.
There you are, can hear you?
Yes, I'm trying to turn my camera on though, but
Oh,
okay,
there
there we are. Great,
Morning.
great. All right, terrific. We're going to usher in a new era in 2023 of transparency and sunshine. And to that end, the first thing I just want to note real quickly, we'll have a quick question. Do we yet have a date certain when the finalists will be selected out of those 3 candidates to monitor and implement the social equity, the lottery this time?
I don't have an answer to that question. We'll have to have somebody. I don't see. We'll have someone get back to you.
Oh, all right, because that's kind of part and parcel to what we're trying to do here and your believability as an agency in terms of moving forward. Next, I noticed that when certain Black people get up, like Peter Manning, get up and they start talking, Mike Asai, I'm not taking away anything those guys ever did in their lives. They did some great work. There's no doubt about it. But I noticed when they talk, they never bring up Aaron Barfield, Sammy Saad, Ben or Kevin Shelton. Those guys were around back in the day too. But just because they're not bootlickers for the LCB, no, these guys don't get the same comment, the same respect, because, they're aligned with King, who is, by the way, the only civil rights lawyer out here who's actually talking about stuff that matters. But anyway, I've also worked with Breonna Corbray. I mean, how many of you are familiar with the Ogden memo? Yeah, I'm the one who told Breonna about the Ogden memo and how Jenny Durkin violated that when she was a U.S. prosecutor to run him into the ground. So anyway, yeah. Also, in terms of transparency and sunshining on false claims that Peter Manning doesn't attack people, everybody knows that Aaron Barfield is the genius behind Black excellence, and it's his brainchild. It's indisputable, okay? And for you to say, Mr. Postman, you don't care who's running what agency, what group, that's not right, man, because his intellectual property was stolen. And Aaron Barfield was on the front page of the Seattle Times talking about Blacks having their property stolen from them. And at this point, Aaron Barfield issued a cease and desist letter. I have Peter Manning lying and saying that Aaron Barfield is a convicted felon for $80,000. I have him lying and saying that I'm disbarred. Where does it end? I mean, who's telling the truth? Who's lying? I have Peter Manning walking into court last week saying that he didn't see the hearing date as noted because the pages stuck together. Who's believing that? Now, let's get on with this. Next, I want some sunshine on the fact that nobody's ever explained what happened to the letter that Kevin Shelton sent to Ollie Garrett that was crafted. It was the brainchild of Nate Miles and those guys. He sent the letter off. It was within the last couple of years, so it's within the statute of limitations. This is a racketeering scheme. It was under the table. He sent the letter to Ollie, and nobody has explained what the protocol is for getting letters like that from him, from anybody. Nobody explained what had happened to his letter. Just went poof. Okay, there's no sunshine there. Next, SB 5052 required a fair and level playing field in terms of the lottery, and there's no time limitation on that. That level playing field never happened, and there's still a compelling governmental interest to go ahead and just give these people these licenses. I've told you the constitutional framework a long time ago. Compelling governmental interest, narrowly tailored, blah 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 blah. Because I read the lawsuit for the guys at Cushmart. There are 4 out of 556 shops in Washington are Black owned. 4! And I'm not talking about the past, I'm talking about right now. And you still can't even tell us a date certain for when we're going to have a finalist as to who's going to administer the program.
Chris, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, Jesus Christ on a bicycle. Next, also, you've got Prosecutor Satterberg, and you guys keep telling lies about how you're going to raid Vince Sears and Red Barn and shut down these illegal places and all that stuff. That's nonsense. They're back in business. I see the reviews in October after they were shut down and raided, okay? And they had other violations going on, okay? So I'm not, as a British would say, I'm not taking a piss on them directly, but they are doing illegal stuff, and you're allowing them to do the things that Blacks can't do. And
Chris, for that time, please conclude your thoughts.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Last person we have signed up is Ahmed Kent.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Happy New Year to everybody and a blessed day. Glad you all woke up. Glad that everybody is being productive. I'm also, again, representing Black excellence in cannabis first, and definitely recognizing Peter Manning as president and originator. Really appreciate that, brother, and Mike Asai, and all of you LCB board members for what you do. United, we stand. Divided, we fall. Government was created for the people, by the people. So again, I appreciate everyone here. And I would like to say that Black excellence in cannabis, we are happy. And yet I have to agree with Mike Asai said, do not forget the past, especially the past traumas. I'm sitting here right now in my work van, and I am in front of Evergreen Market South, where I had to deliver to this morning. And again, I'm grateful to have a job. I definitely would like to be working for myself, or as the truth to power and the fact stands. We had this brick and mortar spot before this brick and mortar spot is what it is today. So I would love to be enjoying some of that generational wealth. Howbeit, here I am today, still blessed, part of a great organization that is on the forefront for Black and brown people when it comes to social equity in the cannabis and legal cannabis, not only in Washington State, but nationwide. I would like to read something. Press forward at all times, climbing forward toward that higher ground of the harmonious society that shapes the laws of man to the laws of God. And that's a quote actually from Adam Clayton Powell Jr. If you do not know who that is, I suggest you Google him and look him up. But with that being said, I was always raised to continue to push forward. So even in that trauma, we push forward and work, and things are being accomplished and things are being done. Damien said earlier that there will always be opposition. We also understand that, but we are coming with solutions. So I would say to anyone who's listening online, anybody who is there in person today, if you have not been affiliated with us, would like to work with us, and to create solutions, even if you have a disagreement, reach out to us. You can reach out to me. I'm Ed King at blackexcellenceincannabis.org. Or if you're there in person, please go ahead and shake the hand of Peter Manning or Damian Mims. And it is sad that we do have opposition at times, but a brother was born for adversity. So what I will say to this, I won't even address things. What I will extend, though, is the hand to sit down and have a conversation. Because, again, united we stand, divided we fall. So imagine if we could come to a common ground in terms, because when it comes to the social equity and these licenses, even with all the trends and things, the different things that are going on, they definitely need to be in the hands of black and brown people, because we've waited long enough and have missed out on a lot of generational wealth. Also with that being said, sitting here as a delivery driver, what I would also like to say to you, LCB, when it comes to manifesting and different things, I think that there could be a better way and a better process for everybody
Come on, you have
involved.
30 seconds.
Okay, such as ACH for all stores, and also more delivery driver protections. My job can be viewed as pretty dangerous a lot of times, especially with things going on. But with that being said, again, representing Black excellence in cannabis, I'm the executive secretary. Please reach out to us, work with us, not against us, not at all. Everybody have a blessed, wonderful, productive day. Again, thank you, all of you LCB board members. I can't name all of you, I don't have enough time. So looking forward to speaking with you all again and working in the future. And thanks, Black excellence in cannabis members. Appreciate you, brothers.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. King. Appreciate that. Okay, that's the end of our agenda. But before we adjourn here, I'm going to ask Rick Garza to join us. There he is. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning.
I'm going to turn it over to you because I know you have something you want to share with folks today.
So good morning, Chair Postman, board members, Garrett, Vollendroff, and staff, and the public that's present. As you're aware, at least our board members and our staff, after 40 years of state service and 25 years at the Liquor Control Board, I announced yesterday that I would be retiring in July. And as you all know, we've spent a little bit of time talking about how that transition will occur. And I know that I think Chair Postman, you're going to share a little bit about that. But I just really wanted to make that announcement today, at least publicly. I want to thank the staff. I sent the message late yesterday, and I've gotten a lot of emails back. It's just a humbling kind of experience for me, but it's an opportunity for me, I guess, for a moment, and we'll have more time. This is just an announcement that I'm leaving. I won't be leaving till July, but I just want to thank the staff for the years I've had, and just up to the point that we are today, and then the support that I've gotten from the board that I shared in the message with employees. And I think, Chair Postman, you're thinking about sharing that with the public along with another message. But sorry to take up time today in the board meeting, but just wanted to share that publicly and how quickly the time has passed. But I know we'll have other opportunities to talk about my time with the board. But just again, want to thank the staff for the responses that I've received so far, and for the support that I've gotten from all three of you through the years. And also, some of our board members are new, but great selection by the governor of the current board. Frankly, I've just listened to some of the criticism that we hear often and from time to time. And I just, I guess I have to say, I recognize the transparency that you all three provide, and the grace that it takes to hear some of this, but always moving forward, always believing that we can create a better path for those that we regulate and those that we license. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Chair Postman.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, you don't have to apologize for taking a few minutes after 25 years to let us know this. And I do want to, I'll talk a little bit about what the process we're going to go through here, but rather than me talking first, always, I'll turn to my fellow board members here for comments, and then I can talk about the path forward. Jim, do you want to?
Yes, great. Thank you. Thanks so much. And Rick, congratulations. I'm super excited for you. I'm excited for your future. I'm excited for the transition. I think it's change is sometimes good, and this might turn out to be a great thing all around for everybody. And, I want to personally thank you for your mentorship, for your warm welcome, for the knowledge that you've passed on. And I'm extremely grateful and feel honored to be a part of this board during what I would call a historic transition. And to be a part of selecting the next director of the LCB is an honor. And I look forward to working with you. As you said, you're not going anywhere for 6 months. And so we're lucky enough to be able to continue to work with you for 6 more months. And when I do the math, that means I will have gotten a full year of your time between the time I started and the time you're gone. So I'm really grateful for that as well. And just congratulations, super excited and happy for you. And your years of service, you've done incredible things and really appreciate that.
Thank you, Jim.
Ollie?
And Rick, I echo what Jim said. I had the pleasure of working with you for 6 years? Going on 7 years now. And we've been through a lot. We've had a lot of conversations. But I know, when you announced this to us yesterday, it showed you're happy with your decision and you're ready. And we have 6 months to talk about this some more. So I'm not going to hold up any longer.
That's right. I can
Thank
tell
you, Ollie.
The last time Rick and I talked about his plans before sort of setting this all in motion, I said, "Are you sure?" Any second less? He said, "Oh, I'm sure." So we'll have lots of time to really talk about what your time here has meant. But I do want to say, I don't think there's anybody that's played a bigger role in the success of this agency for a longer period of time through the greatest change than you, Rick. And I said in a note I wrote that'll go out later, I don't know many organizations that have gone through the title changes that the LCB has, from this massive organization that was in the liquor business to having the voters say, no, we want that privatized. So we had to lose, what was it, 60, 70, 80% of the staff, went from 1,000 people down to a couple of hundred people. Then that was a short-lived frame. And then it was, well, we're going to legalize cannabis for all adults. And then we started to grow, and we were, one of the first two, really one of the first two governments in the world to have a fully legal, regulated recreational cannabis market. And Rick, your role in that was not just, you were it. And from the day the governor came into office, you were right there working with him and the White House and the Department of Justice and everything else to try to convince people of this thing that people in DC thought was insane. And we're talking about the Barack Obama years, which was a very sane president. And, we had a struggle. So you were there. I think you're really humble about the work you've done here. When we were talking about this planning, and I said, boy, Rick, people in the agency and stakeholders are going to sort of have a little panic when they hear this news. And Rick was like, no, it's no big deal. No, it's a big deal. And so, for the people who are listening, nobody, this is, again, the start of a long process. And the way I look at this, and I've asked Rick to do as well, which is he has managed the LCB through some huge changes. He's got one more to manage before he goes, and that's his helping to pick his own successor. So the board's going to rely heavily on him as we do a national search to find his replacement. I bet there's never really been a super big, wide search for the director of this agency. This agency is so different today. This world is so different than when Rick's been here 25 years, came up through the agency. And so it's going to be an interesting time, but we're going to use the next 6 months to find the absolute right person to take Rick's chair, to make sure that they get to work together enough that Rick can do that 25-year download to learn things. Jim mentioned your mentoring, and really for not just the board members, but for people who start at the LCB, your institutional history is invaluable. We got to figure out how not to lose that. So that's part of our succession planning that we're going to have to do. But we will have more to say about what that search looks like. It will be transparent as much as we can, dealing with personnel issues. I want to hear from staff at the LCB, leadership at the LCB, stakeholders, legislators. The board is going to be actively involved, all three of us, in getting this done, and really need to think about what does that leader for the next huge sort of phase here look like. So a lot of work to do, but Rick, congratulations. I can tell you're at peace with it, and now we'll have to get at peace with it too, as we get into this process. But it's a big thing, and know that everyone in this agency understands the work you've done through your 25 years here. And then some of us know what you did even in the 15 years prior to that. And this 40-year government career is really impressive. So feel great about that before all the hard work happens.
Thank you, David.
All right. And with that, we're going to adjourn. We will get more details as we have them about what this search is going to look like, and we'll try to have regular updates for everybody. So with that, we'll adjourn the January 4th board meeting of the Liquor and Cannabis Board. Have a great day, everybody. Happy New Year.